Peace be with you is the title of this morning's sermon. What role does peace play in our spiritual and civic lives? The study of history often encounters the role and influence religion plays in our culture and in our civics. Civility, living in peace with one another, organizing our lives together to create order, the fair distribution of resources, civilization and its expressions, being civilized. Where does the word come from? Civility. Well, you know, I always go back to the roots of words because I think that's one way of always staying in touch with primitive humanity, which, by the way, is part of our humanity. So in around 1200, the old French word cité means town or city. From the earlier cité, from Latin civitatem, and in the late, sometimes originally meaning citizenship, condition of rights of a citizen, membership in a community, later a commonwealth. But what I really like is the root of the Proto-Indo-European language. Remember, that's that language that no one has ever seen or written down, but etymologists and linguists surmise from all the languages back to the source of a single language. And that's what you look up the etymology of a word, and you often see that P-I-E root. That's Indo-European, Proto-Indo-European language. And the root for civility or civilization, is kai, K-E-I, which means to lie. Not to tell an untruth, but to lie down on a bed or a sofa. In fact, it is the root for the words bed or couch, and with a secondary sense of sitting with someone who is beloved and dear. That's what civilization, that's where civility comes from. I'm reminded when I read this about Mayor Mamdani's interview with, what's that show, Latino USA. For those early risers on Saturday morning, you'll know what I mean. But he said it's easier to hate an idea than it is a person. And that's why when I saw sitting on the sofa with someone is a different story than thinking in your head who that someone is. So deep within our primitive idea of civics is this idea of lying with someone on a bed or a sofa in a peaceful harmony with a sense of endearment and the beloved. What is the point? It is this, that deep within our historical roots of language and our living together is this sense of civilization and this sense of peace and fellowship when we sit on the sofa with someone. Pretty basic. I'm going to digress. I remember in divinity school, Harvard Divinity School, it's important in the telling of the story, not otherwise. And there was this very sophisticated discussion about how you handle controversy in a church, and went around, very bright people, all with very sophisticated theories on how to resolve to this. And I said, have a chili supper, right? You know, and it was sort of like, who are you, this simpleton, right? From Iowa, from the Midwest. I said, have a chili supper. Maybe people sitting and eating together will accomplish more than all of the theories that you're talking about here. Living in a town or city, sitting on a couch together, that's what civility is. And it means living together in peace. And it is at the heart of our biblical text this morning. Jeremiah is asking the question, what is a true prophet? Jeremiah is speaking to the prophet Hananiah with priests all around, people standing, commending the prophet for his words to bring back the vessels of the house of God and all the exiles that will be brought back from Babylon, from the Babylonian exile. But then Jeremiah says, listen up. I want to tell you something really important. And here I'm going to read it again. The prophets who preceded you and me from ancient times prophesied war, famine, and pestilence against many countries and great kingdoms. As for the prophet who prophesies peace, when the word of that prophet comes true, then it will be known that the Lord has truly sent the prophet. So there are prophets, and then there are prophets sent by God, prophets of divinity from a special realm. This is an incredibly important passage because true prophets prophesy peace. We'll come back to that. Could this mean that prophets who speak of war, famine, pestilence against other peoples and nations are not truly prophets sent from God? I think so. Perhaps it is so because it's easy to say that someone is bad, or that bad things can or will happen to them, or it's pretty easy to wish bad things upon others through prophetic announcements, although we really don't call them in prophets in today's parlance. But if we do so, our words are not condoned by God, nor do they come from a sense of divine spirituality or truth. Could this be true today when our leaders, in the name of God, prophesy destruction of another nation? This is very current. And yes, I'm talking about our president and our secretary of defense. He would say war. But saying that we prophesy for peace is a whole different story. And by prophesying, it may in fact encourage the coming of that peace and contribute to it. By so doing, that peace comes about. Then we can say our words have come from a higher order, a divine realm, perhaps even the Lord herself. This true prophecy sent from God is in the realm of what we wish for people, what we desire for people, what we hope for, call for, the peace in their lives going forward. That is what true prophecy is. As I said, it's easy to see how bad things can happen to people. We can fall into the trap of seeing their bad attributes and how that will play out for them in the future. We can go there in our minds if we allow ourselves to do so. But Jeremiah's words say that this kind of bad wishing or bad future projections of what will happen to a person is not of the Spirit. We can say it, I suppose, we can predict it, but such thinking or pronouncements are not from God. Peace be with you. Not pestilence, not famine, not bad turmoil, but peace, peace of soul and peace of life. And when that peace comes true, when the person sees that we want for them to find peace, it becomes a force moving them in that direction of finding it. And when it happens, our prophecy for them, our wishes for them become true. That is the efficacy or nature of prophecy. Let me illustrate the point and why I think we can be sometimes so upset or unsettled by the civic times we live in. Remember the root of the word. This last week there is an association called Faith and Freedom, and many important people in the administration spoke before its members this week. A congressman is the third-ranking member of the majority in the House, had this to say: Minnesotans are so afraid that you're going to call us a racist. You're going to call us an Islamophobe. You know what? I would argue that I never did care, but I'm done being careful, even the least bit careful. Somalis don't assimilate, and if they don't assimilate, then they should go to the hell back to where they came from. That's a direct quote. Is he prophesying peace or pestilence? At a Faith and Freedom conference, another high-ranking official directly responsible for immigration policy said, "The country doesn't have a future if we don't end birthright citizenship. One way or another, this nation has to end birthright citizenship." Is he prophesying peace or exclusion and a kind of war on the birthing of a child? Another high-ranking official on immigration began his talk by saying, "I'm pissed." Who's he angry toward? People that he wants to wish bad things upon? Later at the same venue, our president said this about the opposing political party. Now, I realize there's political words, right? But a change in degree, the Greeks said, can often be a change in kind. Quote, "They are hardcore, godless communists. They're animals. We have to stop this horrible thread of cancer that's permeating our country called communism." Are we communists for wanting people to have health care, child care, food, a house or apartment to live in? Is the president prophesying good things toward people who want the people of our nation to have these essentials? I'll let you answer the question. All these words, prophesying bad things, came with the dramatic cheers of enthusiasm from the attendees in response. I can remember a time, I think maybe all of us, although some of the younger people in our congregation will not remember this. Probably you, Jason, I don't know. But I can remember a time when John McCain was running for president, and a lady got up in a large town hall event and vilified Barack Obama as a bad person. Instead of agreeing, which he could have easily done, John McCain said, no, ma'am, Mr. Obama is a decent man with a decent family. We just have policy differences, but he is a decent man. This was a statement of civility, decency, and respect. A statement wishing that Mr. Obama was well as a human being. John McCain that day was speaking true prophecy. Now, don't get me wrong, I've heard some pretty bad things said from the left as well. Some of them equally bad. But they are not in power. And using the levers of power to spread hate, retribution, and injustice is false prophecy according to Jeremiah. Not according to us, according to Jeremiah. They are not saying to the people, peace be with you, but instead give voice, rejoicing in the destruction of war and its victims. That is a form of prophecy, just not a true one. How our goodness, civility, togetherness work? How do they spread within a community of faith or our own city and our communal life? Matthew gives us a clue, a very insightful one. And let me read it again so we can soak it in. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet in the name of a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever welcomes a righteous person in the name of a righteous person will receive the reward of righteousness. And whoever gives even a cup of cold water to a little child in the name of a disciple, truly I tell you, none of these will lose their reward. This is how it works. When we welcome the other, someone close, distant, or unknown, that welcoming also extends backward to those who originally welcomed us. Think about this. Someone who welcomes us gives us the inner peace and freedom then to welcome someone else, but it also works in the opposite direction. By so doing, our welcome reaches back to the original person who originally welcomed us. This is the mystery of goodness. It goes both ways. As the scripture says, whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me, the one who comes before me. The reward is that we are all bound together in this web of peace, both inner peace and the outer peace of living in civility and in spirituality together. Call this a spiritual transference of peace or the spreading out of goodness among a people who are influenced by those who have influenced those who wish us peace. In short, we become bound and influenced by those whom we do not know, whom we have only met through the welcoming gesture of another. I know this unknown person, but only through you. Through your spirit that was influenced by the peace they gave you, but whom I have never met. You on this earth are influenced by the unknown. So goodness spreads through true prophecy of saying, peace be with you, to another. Not war, not pestilence, not famine, but peace, welcoming and giving a cup of cold water, which makes us human and ties all humanity together. Peace be with you. It will be how we, the people, and our nation survive. Amen.